going to show you an activity we do to work with our defenders, with our back four in this case. You can see England's women here against Argentina in the last Women's World Cup. You can see how they're providing pressure, cover, depth, balance, and compactness, both lateral compactness and compactness from front to back. Here I've put the blue team in possession along the 25-yard line for football. And they're just supposed to knock the ball back and forth side to side. The pink team will move between the 20 and 25-yard line, providing pressure, cover, depth, balance, and compactness. This is the first time they've ever done this activity, so the ball doesn't quite move exactly where I want it to, but they're getting the hang of it, and you can see most importantly the team in pink is trying to decide when to pressure, when to give cover, and how to stay compact and balanced, and so on. I typically have two groups working at the same time, and I often film this activity. That allows me to work with one group and then sometimes have a situation where I can go back later and watch video. When I make key coaching points, I do bring the two groups in together. This is not something where I feel like everyone has to be working at all times. It's sometimes the points are more important, and then from that point on the activity is more effective. After that coaching point, I was talking to players about looking over their shoulder. You can see the circle player here as she goes back and forth. She's going to look over her shoulder to find out where that line is. All the players I coach at all ages don't look over their shoulder enough. Now I'm talking about what if that player in possession decides to interchange positions. So now if the player on the outside decides to move into the middle, or if we pass or dribble, or they move off the ball as well. As a player out of possession, do you follow your player, or do you drop back and pass her on to someone else? So that's what they're working on here. After a little while of doing that, I'll add a 9. I'll add a striker in for the team in possession. You can see the blue team now has a 9. And I ask them to pass the ball around again, trying to get a little bit too creative at times here. I just want them to kind of knock that ball back and forth. You have to remember this is an activity for the team out of possession. So now we're going to knock the ball back and forth. The pink team is going to try to keep an eye on that 9, but show pressure, cover, depth, and balance. Once we find her, everyone else is going to drop off. So now instead of kind of moving forward and back, we have a group that's moving forward, back, and then dropping even further as needed. I really want this to be about 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 passes before we go ahead and find that striker. Sometimes when I do have two groups working, I'll blow a whistle that essentially says find your striker now, and then it's a race between the two teams, the group on the left and the right, to get the group in shape. And there we have now finally pressure, cover, depth, balance, and compactness. Now we're going to look at the same ideas over a larger space. You can see here I have a back four that's using the 15-yard line on the football field as their line of defense. Across the midfield in pink, I have a 7, I have a 6 and an 8, and an 11 on the other side. I've also given them a 10. They're just going to knock the ball side to side. I have the depth that they're playing at for a reason. I don't want the players out of possession to be pressing from that far out. But I do want the wide players as they slide across to go up and press the wide players for the team in possession. But once we find that number 10, now we're going to go live and go all the way to goal. So the team out of possession has a goalkeeper as well. I give them a couple targets, so if they do win possession, they can look up and find someone's feet as if they were looking up to find one of their teammates in a real game. But the pink team's going to knock the ball from side to side here. The blue team's just going to move and work on their shape. And once we find that 10, now we're going live and going to goal. You'll see now we've changed the teams that are in and out of possession. The pink team is out of possession. We've also added a central midfielder for them because we've added a 9 for the team in possession. You can also more clearly see, because the camera's moved back a little bit, the targets for the team out of possession. So the blue team in this case is going to move the ball from side to side while the pink team moves, slides across, tries to keep their compactness. You can see a big balance issue and a compactness issue right now as they're learning it again for the first time. As the pink team moves the ball around, the pink team's going to adjust and continue to improve. Once we find the 10 for the blue team, we're going to go live. In this case, she finds it quickly but then loses it. And once the pink team finds their target, we're going to start a new repetition immediately right now. And here goes the blue team off again. We just have shadow movement at this point. Once we find the 10, then we're going to go live again. So we go into our 8 there, and then we find our 10 and we're live. So now everybody's heading off and going to goal. At this point, I decide to take the camera and move it to a different angle. Now I'm essentially behind the goal, well above it at this point. What we typically do in this activity is we keep adding numbers. Obviously, with a younger team, I have a smaller roster than I do with my college team, but as much as I can, or sometimes when I have two teams working together, I keep adding players and changing the cue as to when we go live until we're essentially playing 11v11.